Two quarterbacks tonight made their early season MVP cases that much stronger. The first of, I believe, two Monday night doubleheaders is in the books for this NFL season. The Los Angeles Chargers defeat the Las Vegas Raiders 20-9 to improve to 2-0. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to Houston and defeat the Texans 20-19 to improve to 2-0. We're going to talk about all four of these teams. There will be a timestamp in the description if you're just here for the Buccaneers game. That'll be a little bit later, but we're going to start now with the Chargers and Raiders reaction. I want to start with Justin Herbert, man, because, and I want to make something clear about quarterback conversations, because I think there's going to be a lot of victory lapping through 2 weeks about people who had Justin Herbert as a top 5 quarterback last year, kind of taking their victory lap saying, I was right, I told you so. And I don't think that that's necessarily true. I do not believe that Justin Herbert was this caliber of quarterback last year. And I know it's only been 2 games. I don't want to overreact. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but Justin Herbert has leveled up his game. This is the best version of Justin Herbert I've ever seen. The mobility aspect that he has added to his game has really revolutionized things. His ability to float around the pocket, extend plays, get the ball out, whether it's to McConkey, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston. You know, Herbert's always had the physical tools. Nobody's doubted the size, the arm talent, the strength that this guy has. But this feels like the year that Justin Herbert is really starting to put it all together. Obviously, last week, that win in Brazil versus Kansas City and defeating Patrick Mahomes was a statement game. And tonight, man, you know, the Chargers dominated the first half, were up 17-6 at halftime, and then kind of coasted their way through this. They didn't have too many drives in the second half because of their lengthy drive to open up the half, and then the Raiders' lengthy drive, and there just wasn't a lot of possessions to go around. But in this game, Justin Herbert, 19-27, 242 total yards, 2 touchdowns, a 122.8 passer rating. The guy was unreal. You have to respect what Justin Herbert is putting on paper this season. And thus far, he's been a top 5 quarterback per the eye test. And he's an MVP candidate. Now we're only 2 weeks into the season. So am I ready to go adjust my quarterback tier list today? No, but the potential that everybody saw in Justin Herbert looks like it's potentially coming to fruition. And you look at the offensive line, man, pass blocking, one of the best offensive lines in football. Run blocking leaves a lot to be desired. It's one of the first offensive lines that I can remember in a long time that maybe has the case of being a top 3 unit in terms of pass blocking, but a bottom 10 in terms of run blocking. They're just really not good there. The Chargers defense. It's a defense that when me and my podcast on Wednesday's co-host Javon ranked our top 10 defenses, I had still in my top 10 defensive units. They allowed the least amount of points per game last season. And then they had a lot of roster turnover. 5 defensive starters move on, including the likes of Bosa, Bolton, etc. People moved on. And I still believed in this Chargers defensive unit for a couple reasons. One, Jesse Minter. I think he came in to the NFL last year with Jim Harbaugh and absolutely was a beast. And I believed in him as a coach. And it's looking to be true again this year. And I thought that they kept some key personnel and had some guys step up last year. Obviously, Derwin James makes multiple big plays in this game. When Derwin James is healthy, he's one of the premier players in the NFL. There's no doubt about it. Khalil Mack, same deal. He gets hurt in this game. Hopefully, it's not a season-ending injury, but it did look pretty bad. Probably be sidelined for a little while. And then guys like Cam Hart and Tarheeb Steele, etc. It's a well-coached group. They get to the ball and they tackle. The Raiders in this game had, I believe, somewhere in the realm of a 16 to 18 play drive. Am I able to see a 19 play drive, 11 minutes and 15 seconds, 62 yards, and in a field goal? That is what the Chargers defense does to you, man. They make you freaking work for every single yard. They make you throw it underneath. That you can't take them over the top. And they tackle real good, man. This is a defense that could give any offense fits. You just can't get the big play on them. And you give up a sack, it's over. Because you're just not going to get that yardage back. You have to nickel and dime them down the field. And the Raiders didn't have the juice to do it. And a lot of teams aren't going to. The combination of Justin Herbert reaching that next level while the Chargers retaining this defense, one, it's why I believed in them coming into the year. Some people had them out of the playoff picture. I said, no way. No way am I betting against Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. But two, it's why their ceiling now is a Super Bowl. Could you imagine if this line had kept Rashawn Slater? You have Herbert. You don't even have a real run game at this point. Would love to see that guy going. Hampton, I think he's the most talented back on the team. Had the bad fumble, but they are terrible at blocking for him. But Keenan Allen, McConkey, Quentin Johnston, again, that trio of wide receivers proves to be pretty solid this week. For the Raiders, I think in the AFC, they're a fringe playoff team. Would I be surprised if they captured a 6 or a 7 seed, especially now with the Cincinnati injury to Joe Burrow? I wouldn't. But at the same time, I do think there's just kind of a clear cap on this team with Geno Smith at quarterback. While I do think that Geno was certainly an improvement from what they had last year in a division with Pat, Justin, and even Bo Nix, he's the 4th best quarterback in this division. It's never going to be enough to compete. You saw the worst of Geno in this game, 24 for 43, 180 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a 37 passer rating. It's just not good. And the Chargers defense is excellent, but they could really bring out the worst in opposing quarterbacks, and they did to Geno Smith tonight. And I think that the Raiders are going to struggle to compete with Kansas City, with, the Chargers, with a team like Denver, who just has a superior roster, with anybody with one of those top 10 quarterback spots. I thought that, NFL TikTokers tried to put Geno in those conversations. He's not in them. He's cool. He's a better starter than what they had, and he's certainly a starting level quarterback in the NFL, but he's not that. He's not that. The Raiders got to pound the rock with Genty. He's going to have to be the engine that drives that offense, and there's plenty of offenses in football that are that way. The Colts right now with Jonathan Taylor, he's their engine. They're successful. The 49ers with Christian McCaffrey, they're that way, successful. The Philadelphia Eagles, last year, Saquon was their engine. They won the Super Bowl. So you get Genty more involved early on, run the offense through him. You have weapons in Myers and Bowers, and you don't put the entire game on the back of Geno Smith's shoulders, and the Raiders can be a far more successful team than they were tonight. But ultimately, you go down 17-6 at halftime. The Chargers are going to really just make you work for everything, and it's tough, man. Justin Herbert, that defense, coming back from 17-6 at half is a real tall task. Let's talk about the Buccaneers Texans, man. The Buccaneers go into Houston and win 20-19 in what was a very entertaining football game, a game that for a while I thought Tampa Bay is for sure going to win. Even at halftime, Tampa was up 14-10, and it kind of felt like Tampa was the better team. And then they just kept leaving that door open for Houston. And then the Jalen Noel punt return into that Nick Chubb touchdown, I thought, that's it. That's the game. And freaking Baker Mayfield, man, he does it again. Another fourth quarter comeback drive. Another fourth quarter comeback drive on the road. Back-to-back games to open up the season. Left tackle Tristan Wirfs, who's one of the best in the business, out. And my centers now, I'm playing left tackle, so I'm on a backup left tackle, a backup center. Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, both missing. No problem. Get on the back, boys. I'm taking them. I saw a tweet during the game that said, if Baker Mayfield lost the Cleveland Browns locker room, maybe they should have just gotten rid of the entire locker room and not Baker Mayfield. I don't know how this isn't a guy that you could get behind, believe in, and enjoy watching if you're a fan. For starters, he's just electric in the fourth quarter. Since joining Tampa, he has the most touchdown passes in the fourth quarter and overtime. They showed that stat. He was 25 of 38 tonight, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 98 passer rating. hit Igbuka for another touchdown. Bucky Irving in this game was sensational. That Tampa Bay's got a two-dimensional offense. If you guys are not new to the channel, you hear me talk about that a lot. I think the best teams in the NFL are two-dimensional. They can get you through the ground and through the air. And while that's obvious to say, I do think that sometimes things like that are a good reminder. Rachaad White, 10 for 65. Bucky, 17 for 71. 169 total rushing yards from Tampa. They weren't a good rushing team 2 years ago. Bucky Irving has revolutionized their rushing attack. Back to Baker, though, I think he could win the MVP this year. I think there's a strong possibility that they are a top 2 seed in the NFC. I think that they're going to win the NFC South again for the 4th straight year. They open up 2-0. Baker, down pieces on the O-line, down weapons against one of the best defenses in football. We'll talk about Houston's offense and those problems in a little bit, but against one of the best defenses in football, made play after play. That 4th down scramble that he picked up was unreal. The rushing upside of Baker Mayfield that he unlocked last year and is now going again and utilizing his legs again in this spot. Baker is really starting to come into his own. He started to come into his own a couple years ago, had a Pro Bowl season last year. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler again this year. You guys know that are not new to the channel. My award predictions, I predicted Baker Mayfield MVP, and it's games like this why. I think Baker is a guy who you could rely on to produce, who's really flourishing in Tampa, and with a guy like a Mecca Igbuka, who it's only 4 for 29 tonight, and he had that drop, and he's a rookie. He'll figure it out. This team's going to be very lethal, especially once they get Godwin and McMillan back. Offensively, they're going to be really, really solid. I think that they could push for a Super Bowl, truthfully. Todd Bowles getting that defense right. You have some real stars, Antoine Winfield, Vita Vea, Levante David. You're good enough at the corner spot. I'd like them to maybe add a pass rusher, and we'll see with Kalijah Cansey's injury if they need some help on that defensive line. You know, they have Hassan Reddick, who's decent, and that offense, it's going to be top 10 in football. Tampa Bay should be viewed as a Super Bowl threat. For Houston, this is a team that I was high on coming into the season. I thought potentially this season they could make that leap into the top tier of AFC teams. They're 0-2. It doesn't look like it. Now, I know there's the stat 0-2 teams have a 12% chance of making the playoffs. If you factor in the additional game and then you factor in teams that were playoff teams the previous year, right now it's 5 for 12, so close to a 50% shot. So I'm not writing Houston's season off as over yet, but there's some real problems here. They don't have a two-dimensional offense. There's zero run game. Nick Chubb had that 25-yard touchdown at the end of the game, but he only finished with 43 rushing yards on 12 carries. You take that away, and you're looking at what? 11 for under 20, 22? I don't know. It's late, 1 a.m. I'm not doing the math, but you get the point. Averaging about 2 yards per carry before then. Woody Marks is cool. Joe Mixon, we don't even know if he's going to be back. And the offense is too Nico Collins reliant. Those Iowa State receivers, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, are not impact players right now. And with no run game, with an offensive line that I do think is okay, but Todd Bowles exposed it. Blitz them. They don't have enough pieces. And if you can guard Nico, the blitz is going to work. The offensive line is serviceable. And I do think tonight was a better performance than versus the Rams now that they had Ingram back and have Ursary at left tackle and Titus Howard at right tackle. But, you know, we're talking about serviceable by Texan standards here. They, on a 4-man front, CJ was getting some of the cleanest pockets I've seen from him, honestly, since his rookie season. But once Todd Bowles dialed up the pressure, they didn't have an answer. And whether that's Nick Haley getting to the drawing board and scheming some guys open, whether it's those Iowa State boys becoming playmakers, or whether it's, you know, no solution and this thing goes down the drain. That is going to be what determines this season. Can the Texans get an offense clicking? And more macro, watching Joe Burrow get hurt for a third time now, a third big injury. And CJ Stroud's what, 23 years old? The Texans better look at that. And they had Andrew Luck in their division, and they better look at that and think, if we're not investing everything that we got this offseason on the offensive line to protect CJ Stroud, we are doing ourselves and him a disservice. So, while I'm not out on Houston to be a playoff team, and while I still think that they can compete for their division, I don't see them jumping into that elite tier of AFC teams this season. Baker and Justin Herbert both improved their MVP cases, and the Raiders and Texans got some question marks to work out. If you love the NFL and you're not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, make sure you hit that button. Make sure you hit the like button on this video too. Help us out the algorithm. I appreciate your guys' support. I'm going to get some sleep. I'll see you tomorrow for my Tuesday tier list. You won't want to miss it. A lot of shake up there. I'll catch you then. Peace.